So, welcome everybody to a session today. We're going to be talking about generational trauma and energy alignment. This is a part of the quantum living series that I am doing. I have been doing this for the last few weeks. So, today we're going to be talking about the idea of quantum healing and generational trauma. And there are many different words about could be generational trauma, could be generational conditioning, could be family systems. Uh, so we're gonna be talking about these topics. But before doing that, I wanna do a grounding exercise. Okay, I want to help you guys transition into this session and really, yeah, create a nice space to talk about this. Okay, so I'm gonna play my Tibetan singing bowl. My invitation is for you to close your eyes if you can, make yourself comfortable, take deep breaths. You can exhale with sound if you want, and just allow yourself to kind of land into the session, okay? So close your eyes if you feel comfortable. Allow yourself to breathe in a way that feels good. You can exhale with sound. You can visualize tension going away with every exhale. And today's topic can be a little bit emotional and touching for some of you. So the intention of this session today is to be curious, is to be aware, is not to blame anyone, it's not to point your finger at anyone from your family. I want to enter this session with the idea that everybody always do the best that they can with what they have. And we all make mistakes. We all create impacts that we didn't intend to. And many times that happens unconsciously. So today is going to be an opportunity to look at some of these energetic patterns that we have received, that we have been exposed to, that we have experienced in our family systems, in the house when we were growing up. Everything that we saw from our parents, from the people around us, and the impact that whatever you received had in your life or is having now. And I also want to look at this from the perspective of possibility. This is a possibility for us to change, for us to create a different energetic imprint in ourselves and in all the people around us, especially future generations. I am a father myself, and I am aware of the huge impact that I can have in my daughter. So I try to be as mindful as I can, and I try to really make the choices that feel good for me in every present moment. I am aware that many times I may create a negative impact on her. So the important piece here is to be aware, to be willing to look at things, and to really check in with yourself in what feels good for you moving forward. So I invite you to start coming back to this session. You can open your eyes. I invite you to Keep breathing in a way that feels good for you. I invite you to drink water. I invite you to make yourself comfortable. And I invite you to have an open mind, to be curious, and to be very compassionate with yourself and with everyone else. Okay? So quantum healing, generational trauma, energy alignment. I'm curious to know what you guys think about this before we get started, because there are so many different ways of looking at this, so many different belief systems. There is the idea of what scientifically we know epigenetics, and we know that we have many genes in our DNA, and we have a lot of different kinds of expression of those genes. And we know that biologically speaking, we can have specific energetic imprints in our genes that, depending on the environment, they could express and they could show up for us. But it's not an automatic thing. There is a lot of impact from the environment, from relationships, from healing, from your choices. So epigenetics is one scientific approach to this. And then you probably have heard of generational trauma, ancestral trauma, the idea that trauma gets stored in the body and as energy, and then that's something that we can pass to future generations. The idea that many people are healing themselves and healing parts of them that are not theirs. They are healing trauma that came from their parents, from their grandparents, from even further than that. And they are doing the work of energetically moving that energy. From a quantum perspective, trauma is just stuck energy that didn't flow properly. So some people are moving that energy and expressing that energy that was stuck, that wasn't flowing. Because from a quantum perspective, the norm is health, love, balance. So there is nothing stuck. But we create blockages. We create resistance, and then the energy doesn't flow properly, and then we get to experience things. There is also the train of thought, the belief that we come here choosing where we are being born. The idea of a soul contract, the idea of choosing the environment that we're going to be born into, with the idea that we want to expose ourselves into an experience that we want to have. And the idea that we come here, we are born, our memory is erased, and then we are born in an environment where we are going to receive all these blueprints, all these energetic imprints, dynamics, patterns, etc. And then you discovering who you really are through that experience is why we are here. So as you can imagine, there are so many different ways of looking at this. And I'm curious to know what you think, what you believe, what your experience is. Elizabeth says, I feel that it's a repetitive way of life passed down generational. Yeah. Yeah. And I think it makes sense that if someone lived an experience and they have a belief system, they're gonna kind of pass something similar to their children, and then their children, if they don't do any work, if they don't question anything, if they just repeat the same story, they are most likely going to create another generation of similar. And this is not good or bad, okay? So this is just a choice. We are just choosing. We are always choosing, consciously or unconsciously, how we behave. When we become adults, we can choose what we accept and what we don't, what we believe in and what we don't. And we also have the opportunity to do some healing work, in the sense that we can look at what we received when we were little and we didn't have the option of choosing, and then we can reframe, we can transform, we can realign, so that we can move forward on a different way. And this is always a journey of discovering what feels good, what doesn't feel good, what feels aligned with you, what doesn't feel aligned with you, and allowing yourself to go down that journey. And that journey sometimes includes setting boundaries, includes saying no, includes choosing not to participate in dynamics with maybe family members that you used to participate on. So the journey can look very different for each of you. But I'm just curious to know, thank you so much, Elizabeth, for sharing. Do you guys have any other thoughts about this, any other beliefs, any other experiences? Yeah, so as I was saying, this session is not about blaming our families or relieving the trauma. It's all about recognizing the patterns so that a new choice becomes available to us and conscious. So becoming aware is already a form of healing. So when we become aware of something, that's already healing in process. That's already, you are aligning yourself, you are questioning, you are becoming aware of, wow, I am seeing this. So now I have a different choice, right? Do I want to keep doing this or do I want to do something different? Maybe a healing modality may help me dive deeper into this and kind of become more aware and more conscious about this. So, yeah, Beta says, I'm interested on intergenerational healing from both nurture, nature adapted, biological angles, Emilio. Yeah, so you are interested in intergenerational healing. Amazing. From both nature adopted and biological angles. Yeah. Can you see my comment, Emilio? Yeah, I think so, Peta, you are interested in how to do this from a nature angle and how to do this from a biological angle. Is that what I'm hearing? So let's define what generational trauma is a little bit, right? So that we kind of understand. So generational trauma is not just a memory, okay? It's a nervous system pattern. It's an energetic pattern that we have in our nervous system that gets activated depending on the environment. Emotional responses that we have, and sometimes we don't even know why, but we emotionally respond when we are feeling triggered. And then we may have coping strategies that maybe we created when we were little, and we keep repeating that. So that's another form of generational conditioning or trauma. Maybe a part of you was unwelcome in the family. Maybe you were too loud, and then you learn how to cope with that situation, how to remain safe, and how to keep receiving attention by you shutting down the part of you that wants to be expressive. And then you keep doing that the rest of your life unless you go back to that coping mechanism, coping strategy that you created, and then you decide to do something different. And that's what inner child work, reparenting your inner child kind of modality can be, or internal family systems, inviting that part of you to the present moment and figuring out together how to move forward. That can be kind of a coping strategy that you created. And many times this generational trauma is all about unspoken rules. The idea of emotional entanglement that is not spoken, is not clear. You are in an environment where you can sense energetically that there is a lot happening. There is tension, there is stress, there is expectations, and you kind of navigate that from an energetic perspective. But nothing is spoken, nothing is clear. And then you learn things from that environment. And every family is unique and different. So that entanglement is something that you have to kind of discover and work through to see what's inside of you and how you are coping, how you are showing up, how your nervous system reacts. And that's where this healing can happen, right? So a practical framing about this is that many of the ways that we protect ourselves today once protected someone else before us. And sometimes we were protecting a part of ourselves And now we keep repeating that mechanism now. But as you can imagine, the way that you were protecting yourself when you were little, for example, is not going to be the same as the way you can protect yourself now being an adult. That's why it's important to have conversations and to find a way to connect those two parts of yourself, and to allow that energy to be expressed and to move. And many times that comes from generational trauma, sometimes even before you were born. So Petra says, yes, I'm wondering about the influence of generational trauma from the perspectives of both adopted ancestry and biological ancestry. Yeah, Petra, that's why I was trying to bring epigenetics, because that will be the biological, scientific kind of way, and then the adopted ancestry and the idea of generational trauma. There are so many different trains of thoughts, and that's why it's very interesting to be able to position yourself from different angles and to be curious about it. But there is if you are from a biology perspective, for example, you can explore the work of Bruce Lipton. He did an amazing work of demonstrating the power of belief, and demonstrating how the genes can be expressed differently depending on what you believe to be true. So he really connected the idea of a belief system and something that is a little bit abstract with the biology of the actual cell and the actual gene and how it expresses. And that's why I was talking that environment, relationships, health, nutrition, good sleep, self-care, all of those things have a huge impact in how you are going to show up, what you believe to be possible or not possible, how empowered you are, how supported you are, how safe you feel. Safety is a huge one. Many times if we don't feel safe, we are going to behave very differently, and our nervous system is going to be in a very different state than when you are feeling safe. So all these things can be very helpful to look at this beta, at this biological ancestry and adopted ancestry. So Christina says, recognizing and unraveling some of these intergenerational patterns is deep and powerful. Absorbed so much as a sensitive little one. Yeah, absorb so much. Yeah, Christina. It's interesting because human beings are, majority of the animals, when they are born, they are already pretty functional. They don't need like 1 or 2 years of dependence from the mom to be independent, right? So they can almost walk. They can be pretty much autonomous and move around. But as humans, it takes a long time for us. So there is a lot of dependence. There is a lot of need for attachment so that we can stay safe, we can stay fed, we can get input from the people who are around us. And there is a lot that we receive, as you say, there is a lot that we absorb in the first years of our lives that is going to really mold who you become. And that's why that's not something that you can choose, unless you believe in the idea that your soul chose that environment so that you could experience something and you believe in that. But if you just show up, you are born and you are in a family, you don't choose how the family is. You don't have access to saying yes or no to what you receive. And you learn from them. You learn what love is, you learn what safety is, you learn what's allowed, what's not allowed, how you receive attention, when attention is withdrawn. And then you start forming coping mechanisms, safety, and you start kind of shaping yourself so that you can, unless you are in a very supportive and very secure attachment style with your parents or the people who are raising you, it's very normal to have a lot of different coping mechanisms and trauma that you have to deal with. And of course, as you can imagine, as a little one, you don't have a lot of power or strategies to deal with. So you have to find a way to protect yourself. But then the idea is that when we become adults and we have more resources, more energy, more awareness, if we keep functioning from those things that we learn, that's when our life start representing something that probably it is not aligned with who we want to be. It's not aligned with our true self. And that's why from a quantum perspective, you are looking at, so our intention and attention is going to create, is going to manifest a reality that is different. And we always are creating something. So becoming more aware of, what am I choosing? What am I believing? What is impacting me? Because whatever impacts you is impacting your energy, is impacting the way you look at life, is impacting what you are focusing on. And that has a ripple effect in everything around you. Also, how you feel from a quantum perspective is going to evoke something different from the people around you. So you are going to meet different versions of those people depending on your energetic state. So it's very fascinating, and it's very worth it to be curious about this and to try and choose more consciously how you react and what you believe and how you want to move forward. That's why we are very powerful beings, and if we really want to become 100% responsible and really change and become who we want to be, we can really have a huge impact in this generational trauma and energetic patterns, and how they are probably not going to keep going down generations. It's going to be different, and we have the opportunity to have an impact on that. Thank you. I've heard of Bruce Lipton. That is providing me with some insights to further exploration. Yeah, so Peta, Bruce Lipton, amazing work. Joe Dispenza is doing a lot of work, and he's really connecting science with meditation and the power of our minds. And he always talks about the same idea of being in the present moment, visualizing a different version of you, not getting sucked into the familiarity of the past or the predicting the future, because that's your old self repeating itself. So this is an example of how, if you are repeating yourself and you are always creating your life from the past that is familiar, or from the future that is predictable and you can control, you are not really creating anything new. You are repeating. You are repeating and repeating and repeating. And basically, you are going to repeat this trauma. You are going to repeat these energetic blueprints. You are going to repeat the dynamics. And again, there is nothing wrong with this if that's what you want. But if it doesn't feel good for you, the only way for you to change is to be in the present moment and to enter what he calls the quantum field, right? The quantum field is basically the present moment where your attention can focus on something new, and that's going to start manifesting. Because the quantum perspective is that the present moment is the only thing that exists, and there are infinite amounts of possibilities. And whatever you focus your attention and energy on is going to amplify, and you are going to create more of that. So our work is in every present moment to become aware of, what am I choosing? Where am I putting my attention? What feels more aligned for me? And then you, moment to moment to moment, you keep creating that reality. So let me see. So Philippa says, have recently been blamed for not caring properly for a home, staying in, and accused of taking things from this home and not told what is missing, feeling unfair, shame and blame, and wishing to leave the area. Yeah, Philippa, I'm sorry that you went through that situation. Please help me heal this mistrust. Yeah, Philippa, so from a quantum perspective, you can choose what you are focusing on, and you can choose what you are connecting to. So I don't know what happened, and I don't know in this specific situation if you did any of these things or you didn't, but many times we get involved in situations and experiences, and if we can remain inside us and we can remember that we are an energetic bubble, that we are connected with everything around us, but we don't have to allow everything to enter our own bubble. We can keep that separation, and I can still be empathetic, I can still be compassionate, I can still connect with other people, but I don't have to let everything get in. So I can choose from that place of not reacting, not taking it personally, and understanding that everybody's going through their own journey. And if they choose to blame you, if they choose to do something that feels like an attack, you need to make the choice of feeling attacked. You need to make the choice of feeling that you are not trusted. Because if you are in integrity with yourself and you know that you are not lying, that has nothing to do with you. And maybe there is a need for a boundary there. Maybe there is a need of communication. But I can tell you that I have had encounters where people were very disappointed with me, and I wasn't able to hold space for that, and I was always feeling reactive. But when I learned how to just breathe and understand this is not about me, this is about them, it's their experience, I don't have to connect with it, I don't have to get involved in it, I can still be present, I can still validate what they are feeling and experiencing, but it's not me, it's not my experience. And when I was able to do that, you know what happened? People stop reacting. I am not feeling that dynamic anymore. I am fully present. I still respect and love them. I understand their perspective. I validate their experience. It doesn't mean I agree with it. It doesn't mean they don't have to be right or wrong. This is not about a right or wrong approach. Remember, quantum perspective, infinite amounts of possibilities. You just have to choose something. And labeling something right or wrong is very subjective, because you don't know what the other person is going through. You don't know why they are doing that. Maybe from their point of view, it makes total sense. And you also have a valid experience. So remembering that you don't have to get involved and you don't have to be responsible, and not everything that happens is true for you, because everything has different ways of looking at it. So if you can stay there and you can stay present and you don't take it personally and you can communicate clearly, you can still feel trust with yourself, because that person is projecting something on you, but it's theirs, it's not yours. And if you notice that you have been dishonest or you have done something that you can always have the opportunity to apologize, to claim responsibility, and then to learn about that experience between yourself. Like, why did I choose to do that? So I hope that this helps, Philippa, and I'm sorry that you are going through that experience. BD says, Resmaa Menakem's work, My Grandmother's Hands, is amazing. Thank you, BD. I don't know about that book. Cheryl says, it's like you are the mirror. Their feelings are being reflected. Yeah, absolutely. That is so true. And from a quantum perspective, everything that is outside of us, it's a reflection of us. Okay? So from a quantum perspective, everything is a reflection of ourselves. So if you are seeing mistrust, there is mistrust in you. If you are seeing fear, there is fear in you. If you are seeing beauty, there is beauty in you. So you are seeing yourself reflected through experiences, through people, through relationships, through objects, through the physical environment that you are. So everything is a reflection. So when we talk about generational trauma, like, your family members become a reflection of yourself. And then whatever is inside of you, energetically speaking, you are going to see it reflected. So if you find yourself in dynamics that you don't like, you are participating in them. You are co-creating them. That's why becoming aware of this is so important. Because when you become aware of this, you can then choose something different. And it doesn't mean that you have to avoid, it doesn't mean that you have to be selfish, it doesn't mean that you have to be mean. You can be present with your own experience, with honoring yourself, while also honoring someone else, and without getting entangled. And this is what happens when we are very empathetic. So many times people mention, I just get lost in someone else's experience and it becomes too painful for me or too draining. That's an example. I've been there many times and I still feel myself sometimes involved in a way that I don't understand. But if I can come back to the basics, okay, I'm Emilio, this is my energy, I am grounded, I am breathing, I feel in integrity with myself, this is my intention, or there is another person there, what's happening with them. So it's a very different experience, and I evoke something different on the other person. And majority of the times, that person is able to process what they need to process in your presence. Because when you can be present, that presence is healing for people. When someone can be present with you without doing anything, without judging you, without interacting, but yet they are present and sending love to you, you can heal, you can figure out things, you can feel validated. There are so many things that can happen. And from a quantum perspective, what's happening is that the energy is moving. You are flowing. And from a generational trauma perspective, I have seen this happening with my father, for example, with my mother, many times. I remember when I chose, I don't want to be involved in this dynamic anymore. I will try to think about something different. And I remember with my father, it's like, he will get upset about something and then he will start blaming me or saying something to me, and then I will get reactive, and then we will start this fight. And then when I became aware, I don't know how, maybe I was 16, 14, 15, something like that. I remember many times that he was starting that dynamic, and I said, I'm not getting involved in this. I understand you're upset. I still love you. And I will just do something random. I will say, Dad, I just love you. And I will give him a hug. And he will be like, he didn't know what to do, right? And then he will start laughing, and then I will stop. That will stop the cycle, right? And then from that point of view, it's like, okay, so what do you need? And then try to like find a different way of approaching that. And I understand that some dynamics are way deeper and more difficult, but it's all about becoming aware of them. I like that you are the mirror, their feelings are being reflected. Yeah, it's like you are being the mirror. Yes, Emilio, grateful for that example to ground back to oneself. Yeah, so let's do a little exercise for you to help you connect with maybe something that is generational, okay? Something that is coming from your family, from people that raise you. So I have a couple of questions for you. So take a deep breath and just ask yourself, what emotional patterns show up repeatedly in your life? So what is one emotional pattern that you notice that shows up and it repeats pretty often? And feel free to share in the comments if you can think of something, right? So for example, something that shows up in my life that I'm aware of now, but when I am being challenged or when I feel made wrong, my nervous system reacts in a way that I become tense. My face expression changes. I kind of become more expressive and bigger, and that feels intimidating for some people. And what's happening in there for me is that I'm feeling unsafe, and I am feeling not worthy of the person's presence. I'm feeling less of. So that's a very specific energetic pattern, emotional pattern that I noticed that I had to learn through recognizing the triggers and recognizing how I was showing up. So do you have anything concrete that you can think of, an energetic and an emotional kind of reaction or pattern that you notice that you repeat over and over? Peter says, when criticized or perceive criticism, I become defensive. 100% me, Peter. And what happens when that happens? What happens when you become defensive? In my case, what happens is that I stop being present because I feel unsafe. I feel, again, not worthy of being there. And I feel that I don't matter. I feel that, yeah, I just don't matter. So what's the point of me being here? So I feel that I don't belong. And then I remain quiet. And then moving forward, what I choose is to stay quiet. And then I stop speaking out my truth because I believe I don't deserve it. Or I believe that my truth is going to hurt others. So that is a pattern that I have to watch myself for, because when I do that, energetically speaking, I'm hurting myself. I'm not honoring who I am. So it's a very good one to be aware of. Self-doubt or low self-esteem, anger, irritated. And there is a difference between unsafe and uncomfortable. Yeah, BD, absolutely. Unsafe and uncomfortable they are two different things. I think uncomfortable is needed when you are changing, because uncomfortable means that you are doing something that you have never done before. So it doesn't feel comfortable because you don't know how it's going to unfold. And this happens a lot when you are stepping into the unknown. Okay, and then I go back to the work of Joe Dispenza, right? Stepping into the quantum field, stepping into that infinite amounts of possibilities with an empty mind, not with the familiarity of the past and comfort, or with the predictability of the future. So if you are doing something that you cannot predict, that means that it's not coming from your experience, it's not coming from something habitual. And that's when it becomes uncomfortable. And that's when the idea of get out of your comfort zone comes into place, right? And from a therapy perspective, I don't know if you guys have heard of the idea of the concept of the window of tolerance. So you have a window of tolerance for every specific experience. And the window of tolerance is saying, this is my comfort zone. And then outside of this comfort zone, there is a window of tolerance that, depending on your cognitive flexibility, depending on your skills, you can remain regulated when you are out of your comfort zone. So you are feeling uncomfortable enough to get out of your comfort zone, but not too uncomfortable so that it becomes unsafe, so that you drop into anxiety or extreme fear, and then your nervous system shuts down, either freezes or either it becomes too overstimulated. So understanding what that is for you is going to help you specifically with this generational trauma idea. When you recognize something that you are working through, become aware of your window of tolerance. So for example, if you have a specific behavior, you become defensive when you are being criticized, or you project that someone is criticizing you. So that is an example. You have a window of tolerance. So how much present can you be when that is happening? In my case, when that was happening, it will be pretty quickly. I will step into reactivity and I will become defensive. I will feel the need to defend myself because I am feeling unsafe. The more I cultivated the idea of being present, the more I cultivated the idea of creating a space to pause, use my metacognition to reflect, to step back, to become the observer of my own experience. The more time, the more my window of tolerance grew. And even though I was uncomfortable because I didn't really know how to react differently, but I am still present enough, grounded enough, regulated emotionally enough to be able to remain present and then discover what I could do differently. So that's an example of how you can use this concept with this generational trauma and these things that you notice are coming up for you. And that is connected with safety. Okay, the more you can nurture those skills, the more safe you're going to become and feel, because you are maintaining your energetic bubble. You are creating your own safety and you are not allowing other people, experiences, anything outside of you to enter your bubble and disrupt you as much. So that's why you can remain safe and present in your bubble and still be present with what's happening. And again, this is a journey. This is not something that maybe you go from not being able to do it to be completely 100% there. This is always a little journey that you make steps towards. Sometimes it's faster, sometimes it's slower, and it's going to change with each of you. But yeah, unsafe when you get defensive, absolutely. So guests say, when I am met with question, I feel like I have to prove myself to meet a place of understanding. So mutual understanding, but that doesn't necessarily happen, which can sometimes create energy of resistance. Yeah, so I connect with that idea too. And for me, I pinpointed that to people pleasing. I want to be a nice guy because I care about what others feel, because deep down I feel that if I disappoint them, I won't be accepted. So I have the fear of rejection. And if I feel rejected or criticized, I will go down the path of defending myself and taking it personally. So when I was able to pinpoint all that journey, I was able to understand, okay, so this is not really about how they feel. This is really about how I feel in their presence. And I don't want to create a situation where they are going to feel uncomfortable, because if they do, then that's going to have an impact in my safety. And then when I do that, I'm not being myself anymore, because I am molding myself to what I believe I need to be or say or do on each situation. And that becomes exhausting. And that creates procrastination and avoidance. That creates me not wanting to be in social settings. I don't want to have intimate relationship with anyone because I have to maintain all of that. And it's just too much work. So when I can be aware of that, I realize, wow, like instead of doing all of that, I can work on my energy. I can work on what I need and want. I can work on cultivating my own safety. And then when I show up, I am not as vulnerable to those things, to those behaviors anymore. But yeah, burnout is another way, Lian. When you are burnt out, is that you are energetically completely drained, because there is something that is draining your energy. And this happens a lot with generational trauma too, right? When you are involved in dynamics that are no longer aligned with you, they are draining your energy. And that's why so many people, they need to actually stop seeing their family members, stop being in their presence, because they have not discovered how to change that. And it becomes a very unsafe, very draining situation. Unsafe is when we are in danger. It's also a term that's used to gaslight people or shut down a conversation. And ultimately avoid accountability. That's my lived experience. That's why that's why having a good way of communication is so important. And also understanding that not everyone is going to be willing to enter that truth, that way of communicating so clearly, so deeply. For some people, that is very unsafe and I'm not interested in doing that. And sometimes we need to respect that too. But if they are not willing to do that, that doesn't mean that you have to be a victim or that you have to remain in dynamics that you no longer want. You can be honest. You can try communicating. But at some point, maybe boundaries are necessary, right? So let me see. So I really like this explanation that from a quantum perspective about trauma and energy and this generational trauma idea. So this one says that trauma is energy that hasn't completed its movement. So I was talking before about energy being stuck, and the idea that energy is happening through generations and is flowing down. And then when we can express that energy, allow that energy to be moved in a way that feels good, that is what healing can mean, right? You are just allowing that energy to move. And when you become aware, awareness allows that energy to keep moving, because when you become aware, from a quantum perspective, you become aware, you become aligned, you make a conscious choice, and then you are putting your energy and intention into that choice. So energy starts flowing that way. And when you feel aligned, everything flows more easily because you are being your true self. You are being who you are. You don't have to keep creating these mechanisms to remain safe or to protect yourself from someone that is attacking you. You don't have to put walls to defend yourself. So you are cultivating that idea that you are taking care of yourself, and you can look at things and then you can interact differently with them. And that is what healing means. Like realigning yourself, understanding and discovering who you are, and choosing what you want to do next, moment to moment to moment. BD says yes. Resma talks about metabolizing the pain in his book, My Grandmother's Hands. So the idea of metabolizing the pain, like, yeah, what does that mean, right? When you are metabolizing something, you are allowing it to keep evolving, transforming into what it needs to be. And we are all co-creators of that with what we are choosing moment to moment. Um, yeah, so there is another kind of reflection piece that puts things into perspective that maybe is helpful. And this is like, if my family system or my generational trauma, or however you want to label it, if my family system were a story, what chapter did I enter? So if you visualize your family system being a book, what chapter of that story did you enter? What patterns were already present when you entered, when you were born? What was already there waiting for you, right? And then what feels unfinished for you? I think this is a really important one. Like, what feels unfinished for you? So when you look at your family systems, you look at these dynamics, like, what do you feel that it has not been completed? What do you feel the need to act on? And this is you connecting with your true self and really becoming crystal clear about what does it mean for me to realign myself. And from what I see, what do I need? What do I feel the need to act on, to change, to transform, to metabolize? uh, and when you have kids, this becomes a bigger priority, because if you don't have kids, it feels less real. But when you have kids, and then you see what you are creating and you see the impact of you on them, it becomes very real. When you see them crying, or when you see them afraid of you, or when you see them repeating something that you don't like but you do it too, it becomes very, like, it's a very clear mirror. So yeah, what feels unfinished? And then the last one, what am I already doing differently? And this is something that is really important, because when I look at my family, and now I look at my daughter, so I remember how I was raised, and I remember and I see how we are raising Eva. I can see what's different. I can see lots of things that I can pinpoint out. That's different, that's different, that's different. So it's really important to really acknowledge that too. So what feels unfinished for you? What does it mean to realign myself? Yeah, exactly. And again, this is always a moment to moment experience, and whatever you feel and experience now, it's going to be different tomorrow, next week. And especially when you are trying to change dynamics, when you are trying to change this emotional entanglement that is unspoken with your parents, with your brothers and siblings, with your children, with other family members or people that you were raised with, or friends, close friends. It's very important to really be aware of, wow, like, what's happening? What am I doing? What do I really want? And then to really, when you journal or you can keep track of the changes somehow, then you can see how much progress and how much change you are creating. And also, what do I want to do differently? And that's going to be different every time you ask that question, if you are in a dynamic, because every time you go to see them, every time a holiday happens, every time you spend time together, hopefully that's going to keep evolving, and that energy is going to keep moving. And sometimes when there is a big life event, an accident, a near-death experience, that really helps people, wake up and really recognize, like, what's really important, what is unfinished in my life that I really need to, and the idea of doing a meditation on death can be very powerful. I've done it a few times, and I have delivered some for other people too, where you set the scenario and then you visualize and you guide people into an adventure, and then they have an accident, and then they are left somewhere that they know that this is the end, no one is there, they're gonna die. and then you invite them to reflect. So what do you need to do? You have 10 minutes, or you can invite 5 people. You can finish 5 things in your life. What are those things? And then it becomes very real very quickly. And that can be motivating for some people to understand that our time here is limited, and our parents are not going to be around forever. Our children may not be around forever. We are not going to be around forever. So we don't know when the end is going to come. And if you can live every day as the last one, and you can ask yourself, if this was my last day on earth, how will I behave differently with this person, with my partner, with my dad, with my daughter? And the more you can embody that energy, the more in the present you are, and the more you are changing this generational trauma. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm wondering if you guys have any questions. We are almost at the end of the session. Are there any questions? Anything that you would like to cover before we say goodbye? Any big takeaway that you are taking with you today that you are going to put into practice? And then a couple of questions too, while I wait for some responses, is the idea of about this inherited kind of pattern or pain. So the idea of like, how did this once serve myself? How did this behavior, this pattern serve me when I was little or when I received it? What did it do for you? And then you can say thank you to that. And then you can think about, how is this limiting me now? And then from that perspective of connecting with what that did for you and being grateful for it, how it protected you or how it created safety or whatever, understanding the impact of doing the same thing now, what's having in your life, and then asking yourself, what will be a softer version of this look like? And this is an amazing way of, this is kind of internal family systems. So you are inviting the past and that coping mechanism and that part of you that is stuck in that time. And then your true self now is having a conversation with that part. And then together you are going to integrate both sides, and you are going to co-create something different that feels more aligned. So I think it's very touching, and it touches with inner child work too, and inner child reparenting. Thank you so much for sharing, Emilio. Thank you so much, BD. Champa says, any thoughts on working on generational lack and fear? Yeah, so that's another, Champa, that's a really great question. And that's another energetic imprint that you may have from especially people who suffer wars, genocides, very, very extreme life circumstances. Just imagine their nervous system. Just imagine how much emotional turmoil they experience, right? And of course, that has a huge impact if they have children, the way they show up for their children. So I think understanding this lack, this fear, this energetic blueprint, really understanding that why was it created, and then try to understand what would you like to choose differently. What are you afraid of? There are so many different modalities that you can explore to work on that. But I think the fact that you have a specific kind of word, lack and fear, that is coming from generations before me, that can give you a clue to be able to find meditations, books, and then to keep digging, right? Keep digging into the process. And the most important piece here, I think, is to really become aware of how you are embodying that. Like, the more precise you can be, the easier it's gonna be for you to understand what to do differently. So for example, the same way that before we were talking about, when I sense that someone is criticizing me, I feel defensive. So that looks like I contract, I stop breathing, I stop talking, I become defensive, and maybe I become like more erratic. I feel unsafe. I feel this feeling in my chest here. So the more specific you can become, the easier it's going to be for you to understand where that energy is, that belief system is, and to really work through it and metabolize it as much as you can. Yeah, gracias, Emilio. I always find a gem or several with these topics. I'm truly grateful. Thank you so much, Beta, for being here. Noni says, part of my choice not to have children was that I knew I hadn't healed this cycle and did not want to perpetuate it. Yeah, Noni, that's a good reason. But I think from a quantum perspective, this is a never-ending journey. We are here to experience, and we are always coming back, and we are always experiencing something that is challenging for us. So there is no end. It's always infinite. And we keep choosing to come because we want to keep experiencing the world from different situations. So I think that if you look at the world from that perspective, maybe you can have a different idea, but every choice is valid, right? There is not a right or wrong choice. And maybe your life didn't include children this time, and that's totally okay. Thank you again for these sessions. You are most welcome, Catherine. Ella says, thank you, Emilio. I will sit down with the questions and with the thought of my own death, actually. Feels like there are layers to discover further, even though I have worked with these aspects for years. Yeah, Ella, good luck with that. And I hope that you keep discovering new treasures that you can keep adding into your life. And as always, guys, if you found this session helpful, I always enjoy receiving donations, and they support my work and they help me keep showing up and keep creating content. So I'm grateful if you can share some of your abundance, if you have some. And I hope to see you guys next week, where I have another session scheduled on Friday. It's going to keep going with this series, and I hope that you guys can make it. And in the meantime, feel free to join my circle on Insight Timer. It's called Your Thriving Lifestyle. And there are also recordings of these sessions in my podcast. It's the same name, Your Thriving Lifestyle. And you can share this episode and any other ones with your loved ones. You can re-listen to it. And I hope that this is helpful. Okay. And Ella says, Nori, I had decided the same, but then I became pregnant and just went to work on the generational stuff. Yeah, guys, I have to tell you that becoming a parent is going to add a whole new layer of possibility for you to see parts of yourself that you will not see if you are not a father or a mother or a parent. So I think that it makes sense that we never feel ready to be a good parent, and we are always afraid of neglecting or doing something bad. But at the same time, there is a lot of learning. There is a lot of possibilities to look at yourself. There is so many beautiful moments where you can give someone else a life, and you can help them, you can support them, and you can keep learning what love and empathy and unconditional support means. And you can keep looking at your limitations and looking at when you are contracting and looking at, wow, there is something in there for me to heal. In my case, for example, something that is very prevalent, that it's still there and it's so silly. It's like I just get so agitated when we are on the table and Eva is making a mess. Sometimes if she's spilling something, my nervous system is kind of waiting for her to do something so that I can intervene. And I can tell you that it's not nice to be around. And it's that energy that I know is coming from us sitting at the table and having so many rules. And I could sense the tension from my father being so strict, and my mother feeling uncomfortable but not saying anything. And then my sister pushing the buttons and creating an explosion of emotions and screaming. And I know there is something in there for me to learn about. And if I didn't have a child, I would not be able to see that so clearly. So this is just one silly example. There are so many more, but children will give you a completely new opportunity for healing and for seeing and for becoming aware. Eva has been my teacher for the last 6-7 years. Yeah, she has taught me so many things and more to come. So I'm really grateful for that. But again, there is not a right or wrong decision. It's all about how you feel and it's all about what you want. And whatever you choose is perfect for you. Okay? Yeah, we all have our path. Could you say the name of your podcast? Yeah, Rick, Your Thriving Lifestyle. Let me type it here for you. Your Thriving Lifestyle. Yeah, that's the name of my podcast, and that's the name of my circle here on Insight Timer if you want to join. Yeah, each path is unique. Amazing, guys. Thank you so much for your presence. I hope that you have an amazing weekend, and I hope that you can use some gems from this session in your journey of healing your generational trauma moving forward. I hope that I planted some seeds for you, and I hope that they grow beautifully. Okay? Have an amazing week, and I'll see you next week if you want to join. Okay? Adios.